Have you ever found yourself waking up one morning, looking at your calendar and realizing you have no desire to go visit anyone anymore? I'm not talking about cutting people off or being antisocial. I mean that quiet moment of clarity when you realize you just don't want to go. Maybe a few years ago, you were the one everyone could count on to show up. Birthdays, church luncheons, retirement dinners, even just casual weekend drop-ins. You were there. You liked the laughs, the hugs, the small talk over coffee. But now it's 71 or 74 or 77, something's different. It's not depression, it's not bitterness, it's something deeper, and I want to talk to you about it today. Because I've been there, and if you've ever sat at home, looked at your phone buzzing with an invitation, and felt more relief than guilt when you hit decline, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Today we're going to explore the real reasons why many of us stop visiting people after 70. These aren't just guesses. They're rooted in science, in stories, in what real seniors like you and me are going through every single day. Stick with me. I promise by the end of this conversation, you'll not only feel understood, but you might even feel validated in ways no one has ever told you before. Let's begin with the first truth. As you get older, you start to prioritize your energy for meaningful interactions only. When I was younger, I could go from breakfast with one friend to helping a neighbor move, to Sunday service, then dinner with family, and still have energy to spare. These days, just getting ready to leave the house takes a whole committee in my body deciding whether it's worth it. I'm 72 now, and what I've come to understand is that my energy is no longer unlimited. And that's okay. We're taught early on to stay social, stay active, stay in the mix. But no one teaches us how to gracefully pull back. That's something we learn through experience. It's not that I don't care about people anymore. It's that I've become selective intentionally. And there's a piece that comes with that. You start asking yourself, who really matters to me? Not who's the most fun, not who's the loudest, but who makes me feel seen, who makes me feel safe. There was a time when I'd go out of my way to visit people just because I thought it was expected of me. I didn't want anyone thinking I was slipping or becoming distant. I'd make the drive across town, bring a casserole, sit on a stiff couch, smile through stories I'd heard 10 times, and leave feeling more exhausted than fulfilled. Then one day I said no. It was a family gathering, and I remember sitting there with my phone in hand, hovering over the reply button. I realized I wasn't declining the invite because I was angry or tired. I just didn't want to go. And for the first time that felt okay, and guess what? The people who truly mattered didn't get upset. They didn't guilt trip me. They called me the next day and said, "Hope you're doing well. We missed you, but we understand." That was it. No drama, no lecture, just love. So I started choosing more moments like that. Instead of spending energy on acquaintances, I focused it on the people who actually give me something in return. Not in a transactional way, just in a human way. And that shift, it gave me back hours of life I didn't even know I was wasting. Now let's talk about the second reason. Avoiding unnecessary stress and drama. I don't know about you, but there's only so much gossip, arguing, passive-aggressive nonsense, and emotional noise I can take at this age. When I was younger, I'd tolerate it. I thought it was just part of life. Every family has its issues. Every group has its tensions. You show up, you smile, you deal with it. But the older I get, the more I realize my peace is not negotiable. Linda, a friend of mine who's 76 now, used to visit her daughter every weekend. It was tradition. But every time she came back, she was more drained than when she left. You see, her daughter had a way of criticizing everything. The food wasn't right, the house wasn't clean enough, the grandkids were too loud. And Linda would try to brush it off, but over time it wore her down. One day she said to me, "Why do I feel worse after spending time with my own family?" That question stayed with me, because so many of us don't ask it. We think enduring stress is part of being a good parent, a good sibling, a good friend. But I want to tell you something straight. You don't have to put yourself through that anymore. You've earned the right to protect your peace. You've lived long enough to know that not every relationship is meant to be maintained just for tradition's sake. If someone brings more stress than joy, you're allowed to step back. That's not rude, that's wise. And the ones who truly care about you, they'll get it. They won't make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. In fact, they might even start doing the same. That's how elderly wisdom spreads, not by preaching, but by living. So here's what I want to leave you with today. If you're finding yourself visiting people less often, if the thought of yet another gathering fills you with dread instead of delight, don't ignore that feeling. It's your spirit telling you something. It's not isolation, it's realignment. It's your soul saying, I want less noise and more meaning, less obligation and more truth. You're not pulling away, you're pulling inward, toward yourself, toward what matters, toward peace. And that, my friend, is something you never need to apologize for. Now, before we go any further, I want to invite you to become a part of this little community we built here. If anything I said today resonated with you, if you felt like I was speaking your story out loud, then I'd be honored. If you subscribe to Elderly Reflections, we talk about real things here: senior health, emotional truth, motivation after retirement, finding peace and life lessons from the elderly. And every week I promise to show up with something that speaks, not just to your age, but to your soul. So hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell, and join us. Because your reflections matter. Your story matters, you see. As we get older, our tolerance for chaos, noise, and unfamiliarity gets lower. And it should. There's a wisdom in that. At 45, I could fall asleep on a friend's couch in a noisy house with kids running around and not think twice about it. But now, I want my bed, I want my room, I want the coffee mug that fits just right in my hand. The lighting I've chosen, the smells I recognize. Home stops being just a place you live and becomes a sanctuary. For people like Bill, he's 73 now, that realization hit hard a few years ago. He used to say yes to everything: dinner here, game night there, even weekend trips to his cousin's place upstate. But after each visit, he'd come back more tired than before he left. He couldn't figure out why, and then one day he told me, "It's not that I don't like being with people, I just don't like being a guest anymore." That made sense to me, because being a guest, even in the best situations, comes with a certain pressure. You're adjusting, you're accommodating, you're pretending you don't mind the noise or the hard chair or the off-scheduled dinner. But when you're home, you're just you. No effort, no pretending. For many seniors, home becomes the one place where your body and mind can relax completely. You know where everything is. You can hear yourself think. You can be present in a way that feels grounded. Bill did that. Instead of driving 30 minutes to his niece's house every Sunday, he started saying, "Why don't y'all come to me this time?" And you know what? Most of the time they did. And when they couldn't, he didn't feel guilty. He knew he wasn't avoiding them. He was just honoring himself. There's something powerful about that. It's not about staying home because you're afraid or sick. It's staying home because you've worked your whole life to create a space you love, and you deserve to enjoy it. Now let's shift gears to something else that happens naturally as we age. We stop chasing wide circles and start valuing deep connections. That brings us to the fourth truth. After 70, we begin to prefer quality over quantity in our relationships. Think about your 20s, 30s, even 40s. Social life was like a sport. The more people you knew, the better. You'd go to events, join clubs, attend parties, not necessarily because you loved it, but because that's what people did. It was about being included, staying connected, being seen. But somewhere around your late 60s or early 70s, that flips. You start asking, why am I spending time with people who don't really know me? Why am I maintaining connections that don't fill me up? I'll tell you why. Habit. That's it. And breaking that habit is one of the most freeing things an older adult can do. Nancy, a woman I met in our church group, was the definition of social. I mean, her calendar was packed. Bingo nights, Zoom calls, birthday lunches, community events. But she came to me one day looking tired and said, "I don't even like half the people I talk to every week. I just feel like I'm supposed to." That right there, that feeling of obligation, that's what we carry for far too long. But the moment you give yourself permission to let it go, that's when you start to breathe again. Nancy slowly cut back. She stopped saying yes to everything. She stopped calling people just because she hadn't heard from them in a while. And you know what she found? The relationships that really mattered stayed. The ones that didn't, they faded. And it didn't hurt the way she thought it would. In fact, it felt like lifting a heavy coat off her shoulders. You see, real friendship in this stage of life isn't about who calls the most or who visits the most. It's about who understands you without you having to explain. It's about being able to go weeks or months without talking and still feeling that bond the moment you reconnect. Those are the friendships worth keeping. The rest, let them go. That's not being cold, it's being clear. Your energy is limited, your time is precious, and your peace is non-negotiable. Choosing fewer, deeper relationships isn't selfish. It's survival, it's maturity, and most importantly, it's freedom. I want to tell you about Robert. He's 78 now. A few years ago, he was what I'd call a social butterfly. Always on the move, always shaking hands, always showing up. People loved him for that. But inside, Robert was tired. Not physically, not at first. He was emotionally tired. Tired of the pressure, tired of being seen but not truly known. Tired of attending events that felt more like performances than gatherings. And eventually he started to ask himself a question that changed everything. Am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm afraid not to? That's a big question. Maybe you've asked yourself the same, and if you haven't, now's the time to do it. You see, after a certain point in life, it becomes crystal clear that our time is limited. Now, I don't say that to scare anyone. It's just the truth. But in that truth lies a beautiful opportunity. You get to choose how you spend the rest of your time. You get to decide what brings you joy, peace, meaning. And for many seniors, that decision looks like slowing down, spending more time alone, embracing solitude, saying no to things that feel like obligation, and yes to things that feel like restoration. For Robert, it meant taking long walks by himself. Instead of attending back-to-back lunches, it meant reading the books he always put off, writing down his memories for his grandkids, and sometimes just sitting quietly in the sun with no goal except to be. When we stop filling every moment with activity, something powerful rises to the surface. Clarity. We begin to see the difference between what we used to do and what we want to do. And that space, that breathing room, that's where life after 70 starts. You stop chasing updates from everyone you know. You start listening to the silence inside you, and it feels like coming home. So if you're pulling back from social events, turning down invitations, or choosing to spend more time with yourself than others, let me reassure you, that's not loneliness. That's alignment. That's maturity. That's you returning to your center. It's you making room for peace. Now, here's the sixth and final truth I want to share today. And it's one of the most freeing realizations you'll ever have. Real friendships, the kind that matter in this life, do not require constant visits to stay strong. Let me say that again, slowly. Real friendships do not depend on frequency. They depend on depth. And once you understand this, you will stop feeling guilty for not showing up to every birthday, every dinner, every Sunday brunch, because the friends who truly know your heart, they don't need reminders. They don't need a calendar full of coffee dates. They just know. And when you do connect, whether it's after a few weeks or a few months, it's like no time has passed at all. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's 79 now. She used to feel terrible if she went more than a few days without calling someone. She was always checking in, sending cards, planning visits. But when her arthritis flared up and her mobility became more limited, she couldn't keep that pace anymore. At first she panicked. She worried she'd lose her friends, that they'd feel neglected or hurt, but something unexpected happened. The people who truly loved Eleanor didn't go anywhere. They understood. They sent her messages without expectations. They showed up without pressure. And the ones who did drift away, well, Eleanor realized those were the friendships that needed effort to exist. And if a connection requires effort just to survive, maybe it wasn't that strong to begin with. That's not to say we don't need people. Of course we do. But we need the right people. The ones who bring peace, not pressure. The ones who say, take your time, not, where have you been? The ones who care more about your well-being than your attendance. And those people, you'll know them when you find them, because they feel like home, even if you only see them once in a blue moon. It's funny how we spend the first half of our lives trying to collect friendships, and the second half learning which ones were actually real. But there's beauty in that clarity. There's power in letting go, because when you stop holding on to relationships out of guilt, you make space for relationships that are rooted in love. Real love, not convenience, not routine, not fear, but mutual understanding, respect, and a deep, quiet presence that says, you don't need to do anything to be loved. You already are. So if you're listening to this right now and thinking, that's me, I've pulled back and I've been wondering if I'm wrong to do so, let me be clear. You're not wrong. You're growing, you're choosing wisely, you're walking the path of elderly wisdom, and it's leading you to a life that fits your spirit, not your calendar. That is nothing to apologize for. In fact, it's something to be proud of. Now, before we end today's video, I want to say this one last thing. Aging isn't about fading away. It's about refining your life to reflect your truth. You're not becoming invisible, you're becoming clear. You're not withdrawing, you're returning to your roots. And in doing so, you're discovering what it means to be deeply alive, deeply loved, and deeply free. If you found something in today's message that resonated with you, if you felt a moment of recognition, or if your heart said, yes, that's me, I'd love for you to let me know in the comments. And more than that, Where are you watching from? Your stories mean the world to me. They remind me that we're building something special here. A place where seniors can come not just to be informed, but to be understood. And if you haven't yet, take a moment to click that like button, subscribe to Elderly Reflections, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another message like this. We're building a community grounded in truth, reflection, and deep human connection. And I would be honored to have you as part of it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for honoring yourself enough to reflect, to grow, to choose peace over pressure. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, be well, stay grounded, and know that you are never alone on this journey.